Okay, so we are a couple, in case you didn't know or you couldn't tell from the title of this video. And even though we literally talk about money all of the time, like every single day, all the time.
Literally.
We haven't actually done a video before talking about how we manage our money together as a couple. So that's what we're doing today. So I was thinking we should give a little background on us. So we've been together for 6 years now. We've been living together for just over 5 years. We've been working together full time for over 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
So we've been sharing expenses and now sharing income, just sharing everything money related for quite a while now. So there's a lot of different things to talk about.
Pretty much we're used to sharing. Yeah.
Used to sharing, used to talking about money. The other thing I wanted to say too off the bat is that obviously every couple is going to do things slightly differently, and you're in different situations, right? You could be in a new relationship. Maybe you're married or you're not married, living together or not. So there's different ways that you can go about handling and managing your money together. There's not one sole right answer, but we do have some things that work pretty well for us. We wanted to share our different methods and experiences. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about before we really get into it is the fact that for us, we're both involved in talking about and managing our money.
Yep.
Again, this is something I think that can be different in different relationships. For some people, it's going to be pretty close to 50-50, and other ones, there might be someone who's the main person kind of in charge.
Yeah.
It's fine depending on what you want to do, but we both definitely think that it's important for both people to be somewhat aware, or actually fully aware, of everything that's going on, at least from a high level, for a few reasons. One, I think it's important to protect yourself. It's not good to be the person that's in the dark, does not know what's going on with the money at all. So that's the one person's perspective.
And it could also take away pressure from, the key person, whether it's, I think a lot of people have relationships where they say it's, my girlfriend, my husband, my boyfriend, they're the money person, right?
Yeah. I think that puts a lot of pressure on that person too, right? Like, even if the main person in charge is happy doing that, I think over time, especially, it's easy to set the precedent. Over time, it puts a lot of pressure on that person for pretty much the biggest responsibility that you have together in your relationship. So in general, both people should be ideally somewhat aware of what's going on, but how you actually go about handling it can be different. Yeah, for us, we're both involved in it. The other thing I wanted to say off the bat too, before we get too far into it, is that for some people, when they are a couple that's just dating, aka they're not married yet, they think that finances should be completely separate. That's totally fine. You can do whatever you want to do. Yeah. For us, we're committed to being together long term. We literally own a business together. We're already from living together too. I think this is something people don't talk about. We're already common law as well. We'll talk about that more in the future too. So for us, this is just what works at the stage of the relationship that we're at.
Okay, so first let's talk about the financial system that we have going on. So for us, because we have a business bank account that's a shared bank account, right? Now, this is where all of the income that we make gets deposited into. So whether it be any ad revenue from YouTube, sponsorships, any sort of income that we get, all of that money gets deposited into our business bank account. And then because we're 2 employees of our business, we then get paid out the exact same amount of money once a month on the first of each and every month.
I think this is definitely unique for us too, because not every couple is going to obviously work together or just in general make the exact same salary, but that's how it works for us, which is kind of nice from that perspective. And then we get paid once per month. So instead of bi-weekly or anything, first of the month, keep it simple, we both get paid our individual salaries that are the same.
So what ends up happening is that salary then gets deposited into each of our individual checking accounts, and then we use about $1,000 and we send that over to our investments, and then we invest that money. And then the remaining about $2,000 or so, we use that for our expenses.
Yeah, so all of our money, all the income we make, since we make all of our money together, that's all kept together.
Yeah.
We used to have a joint account. We'll talk about that in a second, but we turned that into a business bank account instead. And then, like Dennis said, separate investments and $2,000 each for our expenses as well. That's how it breaks up for us.
So what I personally think is interesting for us is that despite the fact that we do technically have separate accounts, like separate individual accounts, we've just always been so open with money that even though Steph has got her own savings thing going on over there and her investments, I pretty much know exactly what's happening with her stuff, and she knows exactly what's happening with my stuff. And I feel like a lot of that goes back to communication and having communication, good communication, financial communication from the get-go. A lot of communication.
Lots of communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I feel like, again, it's interesting because before starting our business together, we had separate accounts, obviously, just because when you meet, you already have your separate accounts.
You're an individual when you meet, of course.
Exactly. And then we had the joint one as we started making money, turned into the business. So it's kind of evolved naturally. So where we're at is separate accounts for now. But literally, like Dennis said, from our channel perspective, we talk about you guys. You guys know what's going on in our accounts too. But just with each other, it's something we're constantly talking about. So Yeah,
like
doesn't feel separate.
I want to say like literally 10 minutes ago, I was like, hey, what's going on with your Wealthsimple investments? Like, how's that going? You know?
Yeah. So the next thing that we wanted to touch on is how we pay for things, who pays for what, everything from the expenses side of things.
Yeah.
Now, again, we've talked about this before, but to preface all of this, for us, we really work as a team with our money. So that's like our main guiding star for every decision that we make from a paying for things perspective, but this is how it works for us. Mm-hmm. So we split our shared expenses 50-50. So think things like rent, internet, utilities, groceries, all of those different things. Now, obviously, a lot of that has to do with living together, and we've been living together for the last 5 years. So a lot of this has been set up that way from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So for rent, it's split exactly in half. Yep. And the way we had set it up when we first moved in, which again was over 5 years ago now, but we both write out half of our rent checks on our own personal checks. So our landlord, we pay $1,900 now. Yeah. It's split in half exactly. He writes a check for half the amount I do. Those went to our landlord. He takes those every single month, cashes them.
By the way, like that's something that the landlord had initially set up for the both of us. Like that was their preference initially. It's what we've been doing, and we probably could have changed it up at some point, but
we've been living in the same place. That's exactly why we do it that way. And then same with internet and utilities too, because of that. So originally when we moved, again, years and years ago now, I set those up so they get paid out of my account every month because we just have it on an automatic bill, like a recurring bill. And then groceries as well. I'm the one who has the cashback card that's better for groceries. He has our new travel credit card. Yeah. So that's kind of how we split that up. But because I have the one that's good for groceries, we'll put the groceries on my bill every month, on my credit card every time that we go. I'll pay those off, and then every few months we just go see what half the amount is. He transfers me back for that half. Yeah. So that's all of the like main shared like fixed expenses other than groceries that are always coming in.
Yeah. And I want to say like people kind of get hung up on that 50% number, the 50-50 thing. And I feel like once again, like it's whatever works for you, right? Like that number might be different. You might do like whatever, 90, 80%, whatever it is, right? But your partner kind of makes that up in a different way. It's different for different relationships.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. Because for us, like obviously right now, we literally make all of our money together. We get paid the same amounts, 50-50.
Literally the exact same amount.
Yeah, right? Yeah, and 50-50 makes sense. Also the way we split it is a lot of it comes down to us living in the same place for the last 5 years. So it's just the way we've had it set up. I think it'll be pretty easy timing to switch that up when we do eventually move. Yeah. I don't know exactly what we're going to do, but it'll always be the same idea, right? We literally do everything together. So the way it gets split up will be in that way too. Now, when it comes to more casual expenses, like not the fixed everyday ones, again, it's different for us specifically. I think like you guys know our budgets. We talk about it on here. Yeah. We both have our own individual budgets and expenses. We make those goals together. So we're on the same page about that, even though our actual expenses will be different. Like I typically spend a little bit more on different stuff, but we both make sure that we're treating each other to different things. We're just discussing all of our purchases in that way. Yeah. That's like the main thing for us.
And things change depending on where you are within your relationship. Like there's you're probably more obsessed with like little things at the beginning of your relationship than you are like several years down, right? So also
I forgot that I wanted to mention something that sticks into my mind because we got a comment on this years ago on our YouTube channel. But someone said they felt like splitting things between a boyfriend and girlfriend, people in a relationship, made it more like your roommates just because you're splitting money. They were implying that because the guy isn't paying for anything, but I think just in general. For us, obviously there's reasons that we think that's funny, but on top of it, it's not like we're formally emailing each other like, hey, you owe me this much money. Like we'll literally be sitting beside each other having a conversation. It's very like informal in that way. Yeah. And if anything, I think having conversations about your money together can be a great relationship builder, and it can actually be kind of intimate. So for sure. Definitely not formal and roommatey.
So that's our expenses. And then on the saving side of things, it's a little bit different because prior to us even starting a business and working together full time, we were actually pretty separate in how we were managing our money. Now, the reason behind that is because I graduated with a whole bunch of student loan debt, so I was busy paying that off. And because Steph didn't, she was well ahead onto, investing and saving. And then after that, so after me paying off my student loan debt, we both prioritized having at least $10,000 in our emergency fund, and that money now just sits there. And then, now we consistently, on a consistent basis, like we said before, are investing about $1,000 each every month towards our investments.
Yeah, I think this is, I'm listening to you talk about this story too. I feel like this is something that's going to be different for different couples as well, depending on when you get together, how old you are, all that different stuff. Like we met in school and Dennis decided to finish paying off his debt like 2 years from being out of school. So who knows how that would have changed how we handled our money together in that way if that was like later on, but that's how it was handled then. And so yeah, before we quit our jobs to do our business together full time, we had our separate emergency funds. I just want to make that clear because I know we got a specific question on that. Do we do our emergency fund together? Because we had already pre-done it before in the past, we both have that money in our separate high interest savings accounts, so $10,000 plus each. In the future, again, who knows how we'll continue to like change things as our age and relationship evolves. But that money's just been sitting there for the last 3 years, and that's where we're at now.
Yeah. And then when it comes to kind of our investing goals, right now our current goal is to max out our TFSAs. And then from there we'll move on to our RSPs, max that out, and then we'll keep kind of doing what we're doing. You know, I think a really key point that we kind of have to drive home here is the fact that we make our big financial decisions together, whether it's, you know, our income goals for our business, how we want to grow that, our plans to buy real estate in the future, other big financial spending goals and expenses like traveling, for example. These are all things that, you know, we ideally want to be making together because they impact the both of us, right?
Yeah. I think I really like the setup that we have, which is good. I think it's good to like your own setup. But I like the setup that we have for this stuff because, again, we talk about everything anyways. But in terms of like how we go about deciding on if a purchase is okay to make or not, anything big that's for the both of us, or is, there's not like a specific number that we personally have in mind at this stage. Just anything big is decided together. And then little one-off expenses we're still just going to make on our own. Like, you bought a new razor recently, or like I ordered something from Sephora today. Like we're not running it by, even though we'll both eventually know about those things because we talk about stuff and we live together. The other thing that I really wanted to make sure that we talked about is how we communicate about money. I know we've said like a few times throughout this that we're always talking about money. Again, it's our job to talk about it. The reason we made it our job to talk about it is because we already did all the time. It's kind of been like the very foundation of our relationship since early on.
Literally from the beginning. So,
something we always talked about. But even though we talk about it all the time, it's easy to like constantly talk about stuff but not be action oriented. It's still really important for us to set intentional time aside to go over like the details and the specifics and goals, right? You can talk about something all the time but not be working towards your goal still. So for us, there's a few things that we do. We both have our very like detailed budget tracker that we fill out every month. You've seen it in our videos before. We'll link a video down below for you if you want to check it out. But we have our own one of those that we make sure. I'm the one I feel like that's really good at making us fill it out every single month.
She is. She asked me like pretty much at the end of each month if I filled out mine, and you know, for a while I hadn't, but you know,
keep us going on track. But so every month it's either like the last day of the month or first day of the next month. So one of those days we go through, we fill out every single one of our transactions. We're both talking to each other about these things. So that's on a monthly basis. And then on a yearly basis, we always go through and make like our goals for the year. We wrap up also the combination of all those months of our budget together. We do a video on it, which helps keep us accountable too, which is actually really nice for us, that the business flows into our personal lives in that way and keeps us on track. But every single month and year, we're talking about this in a very intentional way on top of like our day-to-day finance talks, which is really nice to have.
I think at the end of the day, the way that we look at it is that we've obviously built this foundation on how we're dealing with our money right now. But at the end of the day, it could change just depending on the different things that happen over the course of our lives, right? Like you might move into this next chapter of your life where all of a sudden, you know, I don't know, there's other things that are coming up that you didn't have before in your life, and it just changes the dynamics of how you're dealing with your money. But I think it's good to have that foundation and then adapt what you've already built to whatever's coming in that's new.
Yeah. Basically the specific things we do might change, like exactly what accounts we have in what system.
For sure.
But we're acting as a team, we're transparent, we're open about these things and communicating all the time.
All right, so with that being said, we want to know how you guys manage your money in a relationship. Give us all the details down in the comment box below. And yeah, of course, if you haven't already seen any of our previous videos, make sure you do check them out next door, and we will be back next week with another video. You already know.